In the headlines, South Korea accepts North Korea's proposal for reunions of families separated by the Korean War in the latest sign of improving inter-Korean relations. U.S. officials say they will seek assurances from Japanese Prime Minister Abe that he won't repeat a controversial war shrine visit and urge reaffirmation of its previous formal apologies over World War II. Plus, it was a disappointing quarter for Samsung Electronics. October-December profits of the world's biggest mobile phone maker sag, missing earning estimates. For these stories and more, next on Primetime News. Good evening and welcome to Primetime News. It's Friday, January 24th here in Korea. Live from Seoul, I'm Ji-hae.
And I'm Sean Lim. Thank you so much for joining us. We begin with a new development in inter-Korean relations right as most of the nation was wrapping up the work week. Hours ago, North Korea offered to hold reunions for families separated during the Korean War, and in immediate response, South Korea welcomed the proposal.
For more on the latest sign of improving inter-Korean ties, we connect live to our Yoo Li-an, standing by at the News Center. Now, Li-an, what can you tell us?
Ji-hae, Sean, North Korea at around 6:30 p.m. Korea time made the family reunion proposal in a telephone message sent to South Korea's Red Cross via the Inter-Korean Red Cross channel at Panmunjom. This according to the Korean Central News Agency. The location of the reunions would be the Mount Geumgang-san resort as previously agreed upon by the two Koreas. As for the timing of the reunions, the North said they should take place at the most convenient time for South Korea, as soon as the weather eases up after the Lunar New Year holiday. Now, soon after Pyongyang made the proposal, the South Korean government issued a statement welcoming the move. The Unification Ministry said it will soon contact the North about the details of putting together working-level talks for the reunions. As you guys may remember, North Korea unilaterally canceled family reunions scheduled for last September at the last minute, citing South Korean provocations.
So, Leon, North Korea's proposal makes it seem like the regime may actually be serious about easing tensions on the peninsula.
You're right. The action is in line with the letter Pyongyang sent to Seoul earlier today, where it claimed that its proposal to stop cross-border slandering made last week is actually sincere. In the letter, it had stressed that Pyongyang is determined to create an atmosphere of reconciliation and realize the reunions of separated families, among many others. Like you said, Sean, now that the proposal has officially been made through Panmunjom, we can now be assured that they were serious about at least one thing for now. Pyongyang has been carrying out a peace offensive ever since North Korean leader Kim Jong-un called for improved relations on the Korean peninsula during his New Year's Day speech. Last week, it proposed ending all cross-border slandering while asking Seoul to call off its upcoming annual joint military drill with Washington. South Korea has been disregarding North Korea's peace offensive, suspecting it as a deceptive prelude to a new round of military provocations. And today, as recently as hours before North Korea made the proposal to hold family reunions, the South Korean government called on Pyongyang to show actions instead of just using words. Well, Pyongyang has acted, and we can now hope that the much-delayed and much-anticipated family reunions, which would be the first in 3 years, finally take place sometime next month.
All right, that was our Yoo Li-an reporting on Pyongyang's family reunion proposal, live from the News Center. And meanwhile, officials from the two Koreas met on this Friday to discuss ways to ease restrictions on communications and transit at the inter-Korean Kaesong factory zone.
The talks are focused on improving an electronic identification system that would make it easier for South Korean businessmen to enter and exit the industrial complex. The officials also touched upon the issue of internet connectivity at the complex. This meeting is the fourth of its kind on reforming the transit and communication rules and the first inter-Korean dialogue this year following the one held back in November. Moving now to the escalating tensions in Northeast Asia, it appears the United States may be stepping into the fray to act as a mediator.
American officials are reportedly planning to ask Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to reaffirm past apologies for wartime atrocities in what could be a first step to mending ties in the region. Paul Lee reports.
Prime Minister Shinzo Abe continued to test Japan's already strained relations with Korea and China with remarks at the World Economic Forum in Davos earlier this week. Abe again defended his December visit to the Yasukuni War Shrine, which honors the country's war dead, including several Class A war criminals. In an apparent attempt to calm regional tensions, the United States is reportedly reaching out to the Japanese leader. According to the Wall Street Journal, U.S. officials will ask Prime Minister Abe to consider reaffirming Tokyo's previous formal apologies over World War II. Japan made formal apologies back in 1993 and 1995 for its war crimes and acknowledged that its military forced Asian women into sexual slavery during the war. The U.S. officials will also ask the Prime Minister to refrain from making further comments he knows will offend Japan's neighbors and to reach out to Korea specifically. Though Japan has yet to respond to the U.S. request, foreign media outlets expect the two countries to speed up diplomatic efforts ahead of U.S. President Barack Obama's trip to Asia in April. Some pundits say Abe may now show some more restraint because he believes he has proved himself a national leader by visiting the war shrine in December. But others say that given his high approval rating, he may continue with his ultra-nationalistic ways. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
Over in the U.S. state of Virginia, a Senate bill to call the body of water between Korea and Japan both the East Sea and Sea of Japan in school textbooks has won overwhelming support to pass the legislature.
31 out of 38 lawmakers voted yes to the bill put forth by Democrat Senate member Dave Marsden, while only 4 voted no. The bill is the first state legislation that requires public schools in Virginia to teach students about both names. The Korean government argues the name Sea of Japan is a legacy of Japan's imperialistic past. The Japanese government has been lobbying Virginia lawmakers to block the bill. If the Virginia State House approves the bill, the law would become effective as early as July 1st. South Korea will set aside 10% of its budget this year for defense, and to break it all down for us, we bring in Kim Hyun-bin and Dr. Kim Cheol-woo, Senior Research Fellow at the Korea Institute for Defense Analyses. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
All right, so Hyun-bin, let's start with you. To counter potential provocations from Pyongyang, the budget is about 4% larger than last year's. Now, walk us through and give us a clear picture of how we're going to spend this defense spending.
Oh, sure thing. Seoul's defense budget outstrips most other countries, even Israel's. Looking at the big picture, South Korea's $33.5 billion defense budget is split into 2 parts. 2/3 of the money maintains a force of around 640,000 active cadets and reservists, and a huge chunk of that is used for maintaining military equipment and weaponry. The rest is used for the research and development of weaponry and other projects such as the kill chain and the Korea Air and Defense System, which counters nuclear and missile threats from the north.
So why has South Korea set such a high budget for itself?
This is largely due to escalating regional tensions, especially on the Korean Peninsula, with growing threats from the north. Let's take a look at this chart, which shows the defense capabilities of both North and South Korea. According to South Korea's 2012 Defense White Paper, North Korea has twice as many troops as South Korea. The North has also a distinct advantage when it comes to the number of reserve forces it has. Pyongyang has thousands of conventional weapons, double the number of combat aircrafts, and more than triple the number of Navy combatants. Even though the North has strength in numbers, most of the regime's equipment is old and worn out, while Seoul has much more high-tech weaponry. Since Seoul is not able to compete in terms of quantity, South Korea is focused on maintaining and upgrading its defense capabilities.
All right, so Dr. Kim, how concerned should we be of North Korea's key weapon system, considering South Korea's defense capabilities?
The North Korea's the top elites are fully aware of the strengths of the Iraq-U.S. combined defense posture, even including the nuclear umbrella. So that's why they devote their all assets in so-called asymmetrical warfare strategy, which includes special operation forces, missiles, and even nuclear weapons. So I think the North Koreans kind of a special tactic to engage in a kind of sudden strike, sudden attack, and unexpected time and manners. That's striking. But that includes the chemical or biological weapons. So overall, North Koreans, like Hyunbin said, that the standing army is magnitude is 1.2 million, and their weaponry system all in, one out. But still, that number is very significant.
So speaking of these irregular attacks, how does South Korea plan in the mid-range and long term to counter them?
Mid-range, like Hyunbin said, the kill chain is up to the year of 2012. We can devote more than $2 billion to have a more upgraded level. Like, for example, Patriot missile system, so-called PAC-2 and the PAC-3. PAC-3 is a hit-to-kill, weapon system. So whatever comes from the north and with the missile, and we can preemptively detect and intercept those kind of, possible provocations. So I think those stops starting from the early warning system. Whenever we identify North Koreans' intentions for direct attack, the missile and even nuclear weapons, we cannot wait and see. We can preemptively attack. That's a new kind of assertive defense strategy. That's the mid-term strategy. But the long-term strategy, we have to start with the denuclearization of the North Korean weapon system. Actually, militarily speaking, we have to prepare the worst-case scenario, which means they can arguably have achieved the miniaturization or deployable on tip of the missiles. That's the scary part. That's why we are cooperating with the United States, so-called extended deterrence, generally speaking, nuclear umbrella. So the starting point of all the inter-Korean relations with the denuclearization of North Korean nuclear weapon.
All right, Dr. Kim, thank you very much. And Hyunbin, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Before your day ends and another begins, get the latest news live from Seoul.
Residents whose features
restrictions is on the rise.
closing ceremony.
Expert analysis from Asia's heartbeat.
The legislature circumstances.
With a viewpoint only Korea's global network can provide.
The United States, the latest report.
Unrivaled access from a team always on standby.
Meaning came on maneuver, trying to cover up the South's true intentions.
At the nation's top office, President Park Geun-hye is expected to issue thousands of special pardons ahead of the Lunar New Year holiday next week. The Justice Ministry said Friday that the pardons will be issued to roughly 6,000 people, and they include first-time offenders and small business owners charged with minor crimes, as well as those who have had driver's licenses suspended or revoked. The pardons will be discussed during a cabinet meeting next Tuesday and are expected to be issued right before Lunar New Year, which begins on Thursday. Some disappointing news for Samsung Electronics. For the first time in 2 years, the world's biggest maker of mobile phones and TVs saw its quarterly profits drop, largely because of declining margins in its mobile phone division. Our Shin Se-min has the details.
The world's biggest smartphone maker on Friday posted disappointing fourth-quarter results, although its operating profit for all of 2013 reached an all-time high of 36 trillion won, or over $33 billion. Posting the first decline in its quarterly performance, Samsung said its profit for the October to December period fell 18% to $7.7 billion from the previous quarter. And this was also down 6% from a year earlier. The company said its profits were hit by the strength of the won. But the disappointing result was mainly due to its worse-than-expected earnings from its main smartphone business, which accounts for 2/3 of the company's entire operating profit. Yet the Korean brand maintained a market share of 30% in both developing and developed countries, reaffirming it as a top global brand. A Samsung Electronics official said the company is aiming to sell some 4 billion smartphones this year, an increase of 10% from last year, by expanding its smartphone line with new models and lower prices, and also by responding to growing LTE demands in Europe and China. The company's overall 2013 sales hit a record of $211 billion, up 14% from a year earlier. Its profits from its semiconductor and household appliance units both showed increases. Analysts say the coming year will depend largely on its performances in business for high-end smartphones and premium TVs, particularly in state-of-the-art ultra-high definition and curved panel televisions. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
And more news on struggling profit margins. Korea's #2 car maker Kia Motors and its largest shareholder Hyundai Motor Company recorded weaker combined profits last year compared to the previous year as exports were hampered by a stronger local currency. Kim Ji-hae outlines the automaker's challenges.
Korea's second largest carmaker, Kia Motors Corporation, attributed the drop in its operating profits last year to an unfavorable exchange rate as the Korean won strengthened against a weakening Japanese yen. Kia posted operating profits of around 3.2 trillion Korean won, or roughly $2.9 billion in 2013, a 9.8% drop from the previous year. The Korean won gained an average of 25.7% against the Japanese yen last year, curbing Kia's competitiveness against Japanese automakers. The drop in Kia's yearly operating profit for 2013 was proportionally larger than what Hyundai experienced. Hyundai saw its profits fall 1.5% to $7.7 billion. A Kia official said the company is relatively more vulnerable to exchange rate fluctuations than Hyundai, as it's more dependent on exports. More than 40% of Kia's sales rely on exports, while the figure for Hyundai was roughly 25%. Deliveries of Kia's pricier models at home, including the Sportage SUV and the Soul Wagon, helped Kia offset losses from sales in the U.S., which fell 4% compared with a year earlier. Hyundai and Kia had apologized in 2012 for misstating the fuel economy of its vehicles and issued debit cards to U.S. buyers as reimbursement for higher-than-expected fuel costs. The company's combined deliveries are expected to increase 4% to 7.9 million units in 2014, according to Hyundai Group Chairman Chung Mong-gu earlier this month. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
In the latest sign that bird flu was spreading in the nation, another flock of ducks was found dead in central Korea, just north of where the virus was originally found. So far, about 400,000 ducks and chickens have been culled, and it looks like more will have to be slaughtered in the future. Kanya Lee has more.
As flocks of migratory birds made their way around Korea this winter, it seems they were both the carriers and the victims of the latest bird flu outbreak. On Friday, local officials announced that more ducks have been found dead in a city closer to Seoul in the central province of Chungcheongnam-do. And further south, in the nation's port city of Busan, officials are testing to see if a group of dead birds found there also tests positive for the latest H5N8 strain of bird flu. As their exact cause of death is being determined, officials have confirmed that another group of ducks found dead in a river in Chungcheongnam-do province was infected with the H5N8 strain of avian influenza. This is the first confirmation that AI has spread to other regions in the country. The ducks found in the Geumgang River in Seocheong-gun County were found about 50 kilometers north of Gocheong-gun County in Jeollabuk-do Province, or the area where the bird flu outbreak started. To prevent the virus from spreading any further, local officials in Chungcheongnam-do have expanded the quarantine, banning the movement of farm workers and equipment within a 10-kilometer radius of the infected area. But these efforts may not be enough. Korea's Ministry of Environment says there are currently about 360,000 migratory birds in the southern and central parts of Korea, which is likely to make containment more difficult than anticipated. So far, a total of 9 farms have now been confirmed to be infected with the H5N8 strain of bird flu. Connie Lee,
Arirang News.
The biggest leak of personal information in Korean history this week has shed light on a daunting reality. Companies ranging from conglomerates to local pizzerias are hoarding your private personal information. So what are they doing with all that data? Our Kwon So-hwa has this report.
Information is money. And for that reason, the private information of customers is a commodity for all types of companies. From conglomerates like Samsung Electronics and Hyundai Motor to financial companies and internet shopping malls, nearly all ask their customers for basic information like phone numbers and addresses. But some even ask whether a client is married and when their anniversary is. To order chicken or pizza, online delivery services may ask for resident registration numbers, while some coffee shops require personal data just to use Wi-Fi. Customers are enticed to offer up their personal information through giveaways and discount benefits. But what are the companies doing with all the data?
Companies ask for personal data to find out their clients' interests so that they can provide them with customized services. It's part of big data. However, if that information gets leaked, it can result in serious damage.
Leaked information is often sold illegally to chauffeur service businesses, wedding consulting agencies, insurance planners, and gambling and pornography sites. The victim then gets bombarded with spam messages and emails and is exposed to scams. The Korea Internet Security Agency says the number of cases in which personal data has been infringed jumped from 35,000 in 2009 to nearly 180,000 in 2013. But not every business is gathering client data. This social commerce company provides their 11 million clients with all of their services, but only asks for the minimal amount of personal information.
We make Price discard the resident registration numbers of all our clients on May 24, 2012. We haven't collected new ones since then. All we ask is for a cell phone number and an email address.
Korea's financial authorities pledged on Friday to crack down on businesses or individuals responsible for leaking personal data. Leakers in the future could be sentenced to up to 5 years in prison and fined 50 million won, or $46,000 US. Kwon So-hwa, Arirang News.
There's good news for South Korean ski jumpers as 2 more athletes will be joining the squad for the Winter Games in Sochi.
Stephen Che joins us in the Sports Center with the details. Hello there.
Hello guys, happy Friday to you all, and also for the Olympic ski jumping team. With the addition, the team has more than doubled in size, raising their medal chances at the Games. The Korea Ski Association announced that Kang Chil-gu and Choi Seo-woo will join fellow nationals Choi Heung-chul and Kim Hyun-ki, who qualified based on world rankings. Now with 4 jumpers, Team Korea will be eligible for the team ski jumping event. And with that, South Korea's delegation has grown to 66, the most ever for the Winter Olympics. And speaking of the Games, defending figure skating champion Kim Yeon-ah is being compared to the best in history. A Yahoo Sports opinion piece suggested that American Dorothy Hamill, who made her Olympic, world, and U.S. national title runs in the 1975-76 season, would give her a run for her money. Kim's also been mentioned alongside Katarina Witt and Sonja Henie as she tries to match their Olympic gold two-peat. And heading to the greens, teenage phenom Lydia Ko came firing out the gate for first place at the LPGA's season opening Bahamas Classic. She was tied for the lead with South Korea's Lee Min-ah at 5 under going into round 2, which is ongoing as we speak. Meanwhile, for the PGA's Farmers Insurance Open, Stuart Sink has the early lead after round 1 at 8 under, while Bae Sang-mun tops all Koreans at 7th. And jumping to basketball, the National Basketball Association has announced the starters of their 2014 All-Star Game on February 16th. Miami forward LeBron James was the fan favorite, earning over 1.4 million votes to make his 10th All-Star appearance for the East, while Oklahoma City's Kevin Durant came in second to start for the West. Meanwhile, Paul George and Stephen Curry rounded out the players that got more than 1 million votes. Now let's get to Friday's KBL matchups. The Orioles beat KT 72-64, but now it's time for the game of the night. The SK Knights took on the ET Land Elephants. They come out swinging and get the 11-point lead at the half. Now ET Land presses in the second half, but it's too little, too late. And SK gets the win 85-79 to take first in the standings. And that does it for me here at the Sports Center. This has been Stephen Che. Check back at midnight for the latest in the world of sports.
We enjoyed spring-like winter weather here in Korea on Friday, but things look to be taking a turn over the weekend.
For details, let's go over to our Kim Bo-kyung at the Weather Center. Bo-kyung.
Good evening, guys. This afternoon, Seoul reached 7 degrees Celsius and Busan jumped to 13, making it feel like March instead of January. However, nationwide showers are forecast for tomorrow, although accumulations will be less than 5 millimeters. And Sunday looks to be a sunny day with mild temps. Currently, we are under the influence of a low pressure trough from the west, which is why we're seeing cloudy skies across the map. Now, those in Gangwon-do province will be the only ones seeing snow tomorrow. A pre-heavy snowfall watch has been issued on the mountains of Gangwon, where up to 8 centimeters of snow could pile up. Otherwise, a dry weather warning is still in effect in Gyeongsang-namdo province. Moving on to tomorrow's readings, Seoul starts off the day at 5 degrees with a high of 7. Meanwhile, cities down south hit the low to mid-teens. Moving on to other regions, Daejeon peaks at 9 degrees. Meanwhile, Jeju and Dokdo make it to 17 and 11 degrees respectively. Well, that's all for now, and back to you guys.
And that's our broadcast on this Friday night. I'm Ji-hae in Seoul.
And I'm Sean Lim. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon.